So Razer has finally decided to come up with a proper wireless follow-up to the Viper Mini that doesn't require a bank loan to buy. But there are two pretty big design flaws in this mouse that really hold it back from being a easily recommendable mouse to anybody. I'm Kyle, welcome to Gecko Tech and Gaming, and let's see if the Cobra Pro is the right mouse for you, or if this is just a mouse that, like a Cobra, is gonna spit in your face. First off, the obvious thing is that this is the Viper Mini shape. This shape is very small, compact, has some curves on the side that make it really easy to grip. This shape and size make the Cobra Pro very usable for both claw and fingertip grip. For pretty much any hand size, we'll be able to do that except for very small hands. The coating on this mouse is a nice matte texture. It is not chalky like the Viper V2 Pro or the Death Adder V3 Pro. So if you didn't like those and you prefer a more smooth feel for the coating, this is probably more up your alley. Along with the matte coating, there's also some really glossy highlights here. I'm really not as big a fan of that look. It's very reminiscent of the Basilisk. If you like that, that's cool. No shade or anything. But for me, it's just almost kind of a dated look at this point, and it does pick up fingerprints really quickly. As for the clicks, all the clicks on this mouse feel really good. Mouse 1 and 2, very tactile. Sound is a little bit muted, not super poppy, but the feel is very good. Minimal pre and post travel. Side buttons, a little bit quieter than mouse 1 and mouse 2, but these are some of the best side buttons that I felt on a mouse. Very minimal pre and post travel. They pop out from the shell just enough that it makes them very easy to access. These are really good side buttons. The scroll wheel has well-defined steps, is slightly on the looser side, but doesn't feel too loose. The scroll click on here is very poppy. It's not particularly poppy in terms of sound, but the tactility is very nice. Not too heavy, not too light. There's also two DPI buttons on the top here. They are a little bit softer, not as poppy as the other buttons. However, there's this really interesting little cutout at the top here. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see it from there, but between the top and bottom DPI button, there's a little cutout that helps you differentiate between the top and bottom so you're not accidentally clicking the wrong DPI button. You have dual wireless on this mouse, very nice practical feature. You have Bluetooth for low power usage and 2.4 gigahertz wireless for low latency. By default, the Cobra Pro Max polling rate is 1000 hertz. However, you can bump it up to 4000 hertz if you have the Dock Pro, but I do believe this is also compatible with the Razer Hyperpolling dongle if you don't really care about the whole wireless charging thing. Skates on this mouse are excellent. PTFE, extremely smooth, rounded edges. There's no sharp corners anywhere on here. The glide is very consistent and very smooth. Excellent stock skates here. Build quality here is really good. Creaking if you're squeezing it on the sides. Creaking on the bottom, and no flex either on this thing. Underneath the mouse, there's a little puck here, and right here you can see you can hold the dongle. So if you wanted to take this on the road, it's very practical to do so. You can just throw the dongle in here, put the little dongle cap puck thing on, and you're ready to roll. Now that puck is also replaceable with the wireless charging puck, which is required for use if you want to wirelessly charge the Cobra Pro. Now let's move on to the flaws, of which there's two significant ones. The biggest one for me personally is these stinking stupid side grips. I don't know who on the Razer team decided that putting these rubber grips on was a good idea. I mean, these are really notorious for wearing down really quickly, and it's going to be a really polarizing feel. It's not overly grippy. The texture is very noticeable. It's got this like kind of ridged kind of texture to it. It does add a little bit of grip, but there's going to be people who do not like these. And it's like 2023. There's a ton of companies that are making aftermarket grip tape that are pre-cut. So it would have been smarter to just leave the sides bare, and instead of forcing people who don't like grip tape to use grip tape, they could have left it bare, and the people who really like the grippy like rubber tape type things could have just added it on. It's a really brain dead move, and I don't understand why they thought this was a good idea. Now, the next big thing that I foresee being a big problem for certain people is going to be the weight of this mouse. With no puck and no dongle on this mouse, it comes in at 75 grams, which for modern competitive geared mice is pretty stinking heavy, especially when a lot of the competition is going to be like 60-ish grams and it's still getting lower. I personally don't have a problem with the weight. I perform the same with this mouse as I do with the Viper Mini Signature Edition. But for a lot of people who are used to that low weight, I could see the weight here being a big deciding factor in whether or not they want to get this mouse. And the fact that it's such a small form factor mouse really makes it feel a lot more dense, and the perceived weight is a lot higher. Now, for the people who aren't aware of all the weird controversy and drama running around this mouse, it's for a couple of reasons. Like I mentioned, this is really a spiritual successor to the Viper Mini. And here's the big thing. This is a completely different mouse compared to what the original Viper Mini was designed for. The original Viper Mini really came down to 4 essential design philosophies. Minimalism, there wasn't a whole lot of extra garbage to it. It was purely really designed for performance. It was very low weight, especially at the time. Affordability, it was very, very affordable. It was very small when there weren't a whole lot of small mice available at the time. Now, the Cobra Pro is very expensive. If you want it with all of the features, which Razer is saying is a feature-packed mouse, it's $200 or $170 depending on where you buy it from, versus Razer's website as a bundle, or if you buy each of them separately. It's much heavier and it's got a crap load of extra bells and whistles that you may or may not like, but again, it doesn't really match what the original Viper Mini was designed for. The only thing that really stayed the same was the size and the classic shape of the Viper Mini. So the issue isn't necessarily that the Cobra Pro is a bad mouse. This is actually a pretty good, feature-packed, well-built mouse. The problem is this is a bad Viper Mini wireless. This isn't what the original users of the Viper Mini were looking for in a wireless mouse. What makes the release of the Cobra Pro feel a lot worse is the very recent release of the Viper Mini Signature Edition, which does more or less match most of what the original Viper Mini was designed as. Extremely lightweight, purely performance. There's not a whole lot of extra bells and whistles, and there's like no extra garbage on it. But that thing costs almost $300. So the fact that they released the Viper Mini Signature Edition and then came out with the Cobra Pro very shortly after that really is not a good look and gives Razer a bit of a scummy look, if we're all being honest. All right, let's move on to giving the Cobra Pro a Gecko grade. Starting with gaming, it gets an 8.5 out of 10. Despite the weight, the size and shape of this make it very widely compatible for a lot of users using claw and fingertip grip. And honestly, right now, Razer kind of has the market cornered in terms of its internals. It's got the current best performing sensor, probably one of the best performing wireless, as well as objectively just the best performing switches with their optical switches. Despite whether or not you like the way the optical switches feel, they are currently top tier in terms of actual performance and latency, as well as just durability. The only issue is just that weight. The weight is going to really cripple this mouse for a lot of users who have become used to the low weight mice. The frustrating part is that Razer totally could have made this much lighter. There's a really cool YouTuber, Bearded Bob, who does a lot of mice mods. You should check out his channel. He actually has several videos on how to mod the Cobra Pro to bring it down to like the 60s and 50s for weight. For everyday use, it gets an 8.5 out of 10. This is a surprisingly functional mouse. Having wireless charging is just super convenient and easy. Dual wireless means that this is very flexible in terms of how you want to use it. And having those extra 2 buttons really does make a big difference, even though it's not a whole lot. In terms of practicality, if you're putting a lot of shortcuts, like keyboard shortcuts, on your extra buttons here, it's very useful. I've been using this for video editing and even just having those extra 2 buttons. It makes my productivity and workflow a lot faster. And along with the compact size, you also have that dongle storage, which means that this is a good option if you wanted to take a mouse on the go. In terms of price, I'm giving the Cobra Pro a 5 out of 10. Like I mentioned earlier, total price is $200 if you buy the mouse and the dock separately, If you buy it bundled on Razer's website, you can get it for about $170, but then you have to deal with a little bit of a longer wait for shipping, so you have to weigh whether or not that's worth it to you. At $170 to $200, this is really hard to recommend to anybody. However, the mouse alone is $130, and I think for most people who would be interested in this type of mouse, really that's probably going to be the route to go. 4K polling is cool, and it does make a on-paper difference in terms of actual real-world performance, but you need a pretty strong computer to really benefit from 4000 Hz polling rate, and you also need a very high refresh rate monitor to really reap those benefits. For like 8 out of 10 users who don't have like all of their equipment totally maxed out, the regular Cobra Pro with 1000 Hz polling rate is going to be more than enough for you. But the other thing that brings down the cost grade is definitely these side grips. These things, again, like they wear down really bad, and once these suckers wear down, like you're just kind of done. It was such a bad idea for Razer to put these grips on. I would suggest is getting some grip tape and putting it over at least the sides here so that you preserve the lifespan of this mouse. And honestly, I think most grip tapes would probably feel quite a bit better than the way these default grips feel anyway. Now, for my personal opinion, I'm a big fan of the Viper Mini. I've been waiting for a wireless Viper Mini for a long time. That said, I don't hate this as much as I thought it would. Personally, I give the Cobra Pro an 8 out of 10. It's my favorite shape. The weight honestly really doesn't bug me. It is a bit of a jolt going from 60-gram mice to a 75, 79-gram mouse. But if I'm being honest, I did not hit any more or less shots when I'm gaming with this mouse versus something that's 60 grams. For me personally, the big things is just the stupid side grips on this thing, as well as the dated look. So overall, Cobra Pro gets a 7.5 out of 10. So the big bummer is that the people who have been waiting so long for a proper Viper Mini wireless to come out, unfortunately for those people, the Viper Mini's dead. Razer went full hillbilly, took a shotgun out in their backyard and just killed that little baby snake. However, for anyone who just wants a one and done mouse that can really do everything pretty well between gaming and productivity, this is a good option. You can definitely get a mouse that's better at gaming specifically, and you can definitely get a mouse that is specifically better for productivity and everyday use. However, this really splits the difference between the two very well, and I think if you're just wanting one mouse that just does it all, this is not a bad pick. But anyway, that does it for this video. I really tried my best to give my honest opinion and try and avoid all the extra drama around this mouse and just give you a straight up factual review on what the Cobra Pro is. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. Y'all take care, God bless, and I'll see you on the next one, okay? Later.